All right, welcome back to Unscripted from my Jerseys of Hope studios here in Hilliard, Ohio.
Hmm.
This is going to be a good one today. I'm going to cry. I promise you in advance, I'm going to cry.
Well, I'll cry with you, man.
All right. Brian, will you introduce yourself and we will go from there?
I'm Brian White, and former Mount Vernon Nazarene College alumni. Not a former, I am an alumni.
Absolutely,
And
always.
it was formerly Mount Vernon Nazarene College.
That's right.
And I live in Nashville, Tennessee, singer-songwriter, and I've been doing this. The Lord's been good. Been doing this for 36 years now. But so honored to be a part of the podcast, man.
Well, I'll tell you a really quick funny story. So I graduated and didn't pay my bill, but shout out Mount Vernon that they let me pay. Like they said, hey, if you can send us $5 a month, whatever you can send us. And so by the time I finally paid my bill off to get my degree, which used to be on that shelf back there, but it was university.
Yeah.
So I graduated from Mount Vernon Nazarene College, but my degree says university on it. So there you go, Brian.
That's good, man. That's good.
It is good. It is good, man. I'm so honored. I'm so honored. I've been chasing this interview from our good friend Kurt Harding for many, many months. And I'm so blessed and honored that Kurt finally was able to make this happen for us. You're rocking a Mount Vernon baseball hat. I'm rocking one that I got at the gift shop. My kid played, my kid was on the baseball team, but right before we recorded, you said you were on the baseball team. So Brian, let's start at the very beginning, man. What's the connection to Mount Vernon?
I grew up in Westchester, Ohio, and went to the Pisgah Church of the Nazarene, which is now the Westchester Church of the Nazarene, and the Southwestern Ohio District, and played ball at Lakota High School, and wanted to continue in college, and had a couple offers to a few other places, but I always thought my sister went to Mount Vernon, and I wanted to go to Mount Vernon, and ended up there. The early stages of the college, where they're putting their sports program together and things, and I played 4 years of baseball at Mount Vernon, and loved being a Cougar. Man, it was,
That's right.
probably loved it too much, more than I did studying. And so the first year took a toll on my grades. But I'm a avid fan of baseball, growing around up with the Big Red Machine. And that was my dream, was to play pro ball at one point. But playing college ball was such an honor there, and still. So they, the alumni office, one of the guys came through, Brad came through for a luncheon.
Brad Coaches?
Yes. And
I love me some Brad Coaches.
He's a good dude. And,
he's such a great dude.
And then James Smith also came through and took us to dinner, my wife and I. But when Brad came through, he had this, because he knew that I played ball, and he went to the baseball coach, and they gave me a game cap, which I was like, hey, I'll take the game cap. So, but yeah, I pitched and played a little infield there for the Cougars. And matter of fact, I was down here and this is our bonus room, and there's a bunch of music and sports stuff. I'm a sports nut. Yeah. And I found on the shelf over here, I've forgotten, I was looking, my wife was moving some stuff around, and it was my second victory in my senior year baseball, and I pitched against Ohio Dominican.
How about that?
And it was over there on the shelf, and I thought, oh my gosh, that's just such a good memory. But I love me some Cougars, and love the college and the campus, and haven't been back in a few years. They want me to try to come back, and I get so much support from the college. They're very kind, and so I just am blessed. So the Toshifs and Mike Cheek, and there's a whole list of people there.
Oh, goodness,
that just have been very kind to continue to reach out and send swag, if you would. And I'm not too proud to just say, hey, if it's free swag is good swag, man.
Hey, right? Well, I'm gonna tell you. So I was last weekend. I was down in Cincinnati. The big Nazarene softball tournament, right?
Oh yeah, down in Springdale. Yeah,
That was pretty good. So my son was playing in it, and the last time I was down there was when I was playing it, carrying him off the field as a toddler, and I got pictures on social media about that. But Mike was down there giving out swag. To your point, he was giving out T-shirts, and I don't think there was one big enough for me in his little wagon that he was giving out. But I will say, Mount Vernon is special for all of us. I have to say this at the beginning, and this is honestly, Brian, where I'm going to try to not get choked up. But my senior year, 1992, 91, 92, two of my best friends, 1 week ago today, September 5th, I got a knock on my door, and they said, "Hey, Ron and Darren were in an accident and they didn't make it." And man, we were at a Christian university, and I lost two of my best friends in an instant. And I'm telling this story today. I'm struggling through it a little bit because our graduation, you came to campus and sang a song which you wrote. And I really want to talk about songs that you've written, man. It's unbelievable. When I look at your catalog, I can't even get through it. It's exhaustive of what you've written. It's unbelievable. So I have so much to talk to you about. But I did want our audience to know there's two songs that you've written, three actually. One was Extra Mile. I Will Walk the Extra Mile. And you came to our graduation, you sang that. And that song was very important to the class of 1992 because, we lost two of our own, and it was hard, and it was a very powerful moment. And I don't know if you'll ever know the impact that the song and you singing it at our graduation had on our class. And let me tell you one more thing, and I promise you, I'll let you speak.
You're fine, man.
According to your catalog, you wrote a song called "Everything You Are" for Larnell Harris.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah.
So let me tell you, during 91, 92, when I was trying to piece my life together, used to take a CD by Larnell Harris and get in my Monte Carlo and find a parking lot somewhere, and I would play "Everything You Are" by Larnell Harris over and over and over again, because I was trying to figure out who I was going to be in life. I was a senior in college. I didn't know what I was going to do. I just lost two of my best friends. Man, I just want to honor you before we get into all this conversation today. I want to honor you so well because, man, what you write and what you wrote and the artists that performed it, just know that this college kid was sitting in a car trying to figure out what life was going to be. And man, Everything You Are might have gotten me through one of the hardest moments of my life, along with Walk the Extra Mile. And the last thing I'm going to tell you really quick, and then I got another story for you. So I know we're both tearing up right now, but I got one more for you. But I want you to know the importance of what you do. I will tell you, there's a line that you said in Walk the Extra Mile, and that's, "There's a road you walk each day that travels through my heart." Man, I'm going to say that again. There's a road you walk each day that travels through my heart. And you know how many times I've used that line? Sorry, I probably owe you a check for how many times I've texted that line to somebody. But there is a road for our friends, for those that we love, for our family that walks through our heart. Okay, I'm done talking. So, man, I just want to honor you and let you know that what you have done and what you are doing, you probably don't even know that. Like, I don't know. You got a lot of records on the wall behind you and pictures and things, but just know that this guy you're talking to today, man, those two songs, and I got one more for you we'll talk about later, but those two songs have made a massive difference in my life.
Man, let me compose myself.
Sorry. Welcome to Unscripted.
Yeah, it's unscripted because I sure didn't just come. You always wonder if what you're doing in these little rooms that we get in here in Nashville makes a difference, you know? And I think our prayer every time we sit down with the guitar, and I don't think I'm a great songwriter. Stephen Curtis Chapman said that, I'm stealing this from Stephen. He said, maybe I'm a great song catcher because God just dropped them in and I'm just trying to catch them and not to screw them up. Just get out of the way. Let the Holy Spirit does what he does.
Yeah.
A couple of things. I remember vividly the call I got. I'd written Extra Mile for a good buddy of mine, Al Denson, and Al had recorded it. I recorded it and had it on the record. And I did at that time, I was doing a lot of camps and conferences and things especially across Ohio, because that's where I was from. And they called and said, hey, man, you know, they told me, I read about the tragedy and had heard from friends, my good buddy Scott Fleming.
Love Scott. I love Coach Fleming.
Yeah, we played ball together, and he was at my wedding. You know, just a bunch of we are close and still very close. And he said, "Hey, he told me what happened and this song, and would you, you know?" And then the college contacted me, and would you consider coming back? And I was like, I'd be so honored. And I remember walking out on that stage that day, and you know, just my heart hurt for all those that, like yourself, you know, who had lost friends, and we question God sometimes, like, why,
right?
You know, and ours is not to understand, ours is just to trust, you know, and I just felt like that's the least that I could do, is just show up and sing a song, you know. I mean, if that brings healing or whatever, and I think at some point, excuse me, I'm drinking coffee. Oh, by the way, I don't know if I'm very well represented. The Reds, the Bengals, the Cougars.
You got all the 513.
I did. I didn't even, you know, I do have the 513 going. But I think they had some kind of a plaque or something that hung down in the sports area. And they were like, is it okay if we reprint these lyrics? And I'm like, do whatever you want to do. That's And to this day, that was one of the special moments in my career. I mean, just to be given that opportunity and that honor to stand there with that class. And so it means the world to hear a story from you, because sometimes you leave and you go on and go, I hope I did okay, and I hope that song did, and to know that it did. And then the crazy thing, Everything You Are. That's actually was the very first #1 song I ever wrote, and of course Larnell is like one of the premier singers in our industry. I think globally, he's just unbelievable.
Yeah.
And I just to hear his voice on a song was one thing, but that song, Everything You Are, is all I'll ever need. There's not a path I'll take where you cannot lead. How can I be less? What you ask
than what you ask of me. I have it memorized. Absolutely.
That was my heart. I would like to sit here on this podcast and tell you that everything I ever did was perfect. It's not.
Right.
And there was times that I found myself writing healing into my own heart. You know, it was like I had a friend one time said, hey man, you've written all these songs and you believe they work for everybody else. Why don't they work for you? You know, why don't you start because there was a point where I had gone through a rough spot in my I went through a divorce, and that's not a positive thing to talk about, but it's honest. And it was at that point they were saying, hey dude, you need to go back and listen to some of the things you've written that have healed and helped other people that are hurting. And believe those words yourself. Everything You Are was one of those songs. It was just, for me, it was like, oh my gosh, God, you're just pouring this out. And I wrote that with my good friends, Dave Clark and Don Cook. And if it ever did anything more than just get written, but then when they called and said, hey, Larnell's going to record this, I'm like, oh, what? And then they go, oh, they're going to do it live at the Brooklyn Tab.
With the Brooklyn Tab, right? Like, come on. I mean, that album is off the chain.
And that was pretty, so good. It was pretty unbelievable for me, a new songwriter at that time. And so I still have a very strong relationship with all those guys. As a matter of fact, my friend Dave had a big celebration of his years in the industry. and me and Don and Dave were there, and Larnell was there. So we got a picture of us. You know, it might have been the first picture we've had together since we stood together on the platform and got a plaque. You know, but those songs are special songs to me, and to know that you and I never met,
right?
And outside of our good buddy Kurt Harding, who said, "Hey, there's this guy that does this podcast, and he went to college where you went to." I was like, "What?" You know, and I said, "No, he went to university. I went to college." You know,
That's right. Yeah.
But you know, I would never know these stories. So you've blessed me this morning, man. You know, I'm like anybody else. Probably you doubt sometimes what you're doing. Is that any good? And does anybody really care? You know, that you kind of go through that self-doubt stuff. And to hear these stories are better than any plaque or any kind of junk. Matter of fact, I'm trying to find. I think it's out in my writer room. I have another space that I write in on our property. And oh wait, if the screen goes blank for 1 second, is that cool?
I could recognize that CD cover in a minute.
The lighting's not great. That's everything you are. That's the number one plaque that they gave me.
Wow.
1991. Been a few years, but that was the early career part of my career as a writer, and so to hear that it impacted you and made a difference in your life, dude, that's better than that plaque.
Yeah. Oh man, that means a lot.
Your story on that nail over there, and say, hey, here's the story of my buddy Aaron. Let me tell you. So,
well, it'd be a picture of me in Mount Vernon High School's parking lot in a Monte Carlo. With a Sony Discman, with the cassette, the cassette adapter that you put in the cassette plate. Like, seriously, this is real talk. So it would be that. It would be me sitting in a Monte Carlo, which I love my Monte Carlo. If I could drive that car today, I'd still be driving it. But because I did church in that Monte Carlo too, stuff like Larnell Harris's CD and songs like Everything You Are. All right, when you stepped away there was a plaque on the wall behind you for a song called Watching You by Rodney Adkins. And I have a feeling anybody listening, if you're not a Larnell Harris or Al Denson or any, again, the catalog's huge. So I guarantee you they've heard something written by you. But that being said, you wrote a song called Watching You that it was kind of big, right? Kind of a big deal.
It's been a good song. It's kind of crazy that whole song. I didn't set out to write country music, you know, and this just to show you that God's plans are greater than any dreams we have, you know. And I was writing for a publishing company that had a country division, and I'd written a song with my buddy Rodney Clausen, and it was kind of what we always jokingly called Jesus Is My Boyfriend song. It's kind of like, well, it could be about God, it could be about a girl, you know, it's about love. And so, you know, so we called it Jesus Is My Boyfriend, you know, songs. And long way around it, his publisher pitched it and it got put on hold for Faith Hill. And so Faith Hill's people called the publishing company I was at. Well, they called the country side. Makes sense. And I said, hey, we're going to put this song on hold that one of your writers wrote, Brian White. And they were like, well, we don't have a Brian White. And they were going, well, no, right here it says BMG Music Publishing. And one of the guys in the office said, oh, that's the guy in the gospel division. And they said, well, call him down here. So my publisher comes to me, because when we walked in to BMG at the time, there was a front desk and then two hallways. One went left to the gospel division, one went right to the country division. Or as I called it, the sheep and the goats, you know. and I always joke, I said, but the goats had the coffee pot, so I ended up down there a lot, you know. And I thought maybe I was getting called on because I'd been hanging out the coffee pot too much. And they called me down there, long story short, like, hey, man, we love this song, Faith Hill, blah, blah, blah. Do you have any other songs? And I'm like, yeah. I can get you more. And so I went back to my Christian publishing side and told my publisher. He's like, dude, they've never asked anybody from the Christian division to come down there and write. So you got to do this. And They invited me to go on a retreat, which I was like, why am I going on a retreat with all these hell-raising, beer-drinking guys, you know? And it was like the audible voice of God said, just go be light. Just go. And so all that to say, that plugged me into the country, guys. And I started writing my first country cut was the thing I wrote for Trace Atkins on that retreat. And it got cut. It was a big single. I was like, oh my gosh, this is unbelievable, but I don't know the country market. I kept getting put in rooms with other country writers. Mm-hmm. So brings me to Watching You. So my buddy Steve Dean that I wrote this with and Rodney, he calls and says, hey man, I'm lined up to write with Rodney. You want to join us? And I'm like, sure. So we go in and we start talking about ideas for songs as we do. We're drinking coffee, which I'm doing right here.
Go Bengals.
And go Bengals. After Sunday, please go.
That's right.
Come on.
Who day?
Who
day?
And so we start talking about things. We came up with the idea of, Rodney came in late. And he's like, guys, I'm so sorry, but on my way in today, I got a call from the preschool. They needed to talk to me because they had called my son into the office. And I'm like going, dude, your kid is 4. What could he possibly be doing?
What could he possibly have done?
And but at the time, Rodney had a big hit out on country radio, and it was a song called "If You're Going Through Hell." And the whole essence of the song is, "If you're going through hell, keep on going. You might get out before the devil even knows you're there." Right. And so Rodney's kid Elijah would be standing in the recess line or the bathroom line, and he would just start singing, "If you're going through hell," and then he'd go, "Hell, hell, hell," and he just kept saying hell. And they were like, Mr. Atkins, you probably just don't want your kid to saying hell all the time. And so Rodney looks at me and Steve, he goes, man, I don't get it. Why is he doing that? And we were like, well, dude, he's just doing what you do.
Yeah.
He's listening to you and he's watching you and he's going. And Rodney went, let's write that. Smart songwriters, when you get in the room with an artist, if they say, let's write that, you go, yes, let's run.
Let's run, right? Let's run. Yeah.
So we took off on that and we wrote the first verse and we got to the second verse. And I said, it's not just the bad things that we pick up from our parents. My dad, who is my hero, such a godly man, raised me in the church, him and my mom. I would come home from baseball practice and my dad would be sitting in his recliner reading his Bible. Or I would find him kneeling by, his bed or whatever. And those are the things that impacted me. And I said, it's those things too. And we were like, well, let's write that into the second verse. Having no idea that the record label loved it. So we're cutting this. And so we're like, yay. And but having no idea it'd ever be a big single. And he had a song, Going Through Hell was his first single. And we were at the #1 party for that. And the record label head, Mike Curb, who's a big name down here, he walks over to me and he says, man, and he was comparing because they had Tim McGraw on the same label. And he said, Going Through Hell is Tim McGraw's Indian Outlaw. It is Rodney's Indian Outlaw, which was the big. And he goes, right. He goes, and Watching You is going to be Rodney's Don't Take the Girl. And I was like,
that's a lot of weight.
I was like, okay, from your lips to God's ears. I like that, And we had no idea that song would do what it did. And so just in a synopsis of that whole song, they released it. It was a #1 for 5 weeks. It was Billboard's most played song of the decade. It was in all the top 100 country songs of all time. It's listed as number 37, which is kind of funny because it's right under Mamas Don't Let Your Babies Grow Up to Be Cowboys. So I've always joked and said, me and Willie Nelson, we're tight, And but it's just been that song that has a message that I get emails to this day of people going, hey, this song changed the way I parent my child. This is or I'll get somebody walk up to me at a concert and go, man, that was my dad and I's song. And, and he went to heaven 2 years ago. And every time I hear that, so it was a blessing. It was a God thing. Again, just being ready to catch what God was dropping in the room. And I'm so thankful for that song. It was a game changer for me. in the industry. It gives that kind of credibility, I guess is what the word would be, that people going, oh, you wrote that, let's get in the room,
Yeah.
And it was a snowball of opportunities that came my way across the board in the CCM market and the country market. So I'm grateful for that song.
Well, grab your handkerchief again if you got it.
I do.
Seriously, get it on deck, because the song "Watching You," when it came out, dear friend of mine found out he had stage 4 cancer out of nowhere. His kids were my kids' age, and so it was like watching myself, because his kids were my kids' age. And my friend Steph didn't make it, but "Watching You" was his favorite song, because he had 2 boys and a daughter. And stood at his funeral and talked to his family about how much he loved them. And that song was so important, because he knew they were watching him. And today his middle son works for me. And I told him last night that I was going to interview you today. And his daughter graduated this year, went to my tattoo artist and got a tattoo. And I'm gonna have to apologize. You can write a song about this. I'm gonna have to apologize to Steph when I get to heaven that that I might have encouraged his daughter to get a tattoo, and she went to my tattoo artist. But anyway, no, man, I just, again, I wanted to honor them and Steph, and let you know again, man, these things that you just write. And I know you're not just writing songs, right? Like, and people perform them, but what you do is the Lord's work. Whether it's country music, like you said, right, left in the hallway, it's the Lord's work, because music is so powerful, especially for people that don't know how to process emotion or don't know how to package emotion. Somebody just sent me a song today, the new Miley Cyrus song. Sorry if we go off track, but seriously, a new Miley Cyrus song. And when I listened to it, it was so powerful. And I'm a music fan, and it has helped me. Music in my life has been so powerful and important. So that's why I could not wait to interview you, because you don't have to sing the song, but the fact that you pen it, man, that every line impacts people, whether it's a celebration, whether it's a great memory, whether it's a scar, whether it's man. So what is that like? I assume you understand, and I'm not putting pressure on you. I assume you understand the weight of knowing that I write this and I hand it to an artist. Let's call it, behind you's a Jason Aldean. Again, the catalog here is incredible. The artists that you've worked with that then put that into motion and put that out into the world. Diane Warren is someone that I think of that has written incredible songs, and nobody even knows. I bet a lot of people will hear her name and not even know who she is. What's it like?
It's an interesting thing, because I did for 15 years. I was an artist, and toured, and the Brian White and Justice days where we played every, and I was the long-haired guy in the Nazarene church, so to speak. But
sweet mullet,
and so sweet. And unfortunately, you can't deny it because it's on the internet. So,
right. It's out there.
But standing on stage and singing and seeing the impact is one thing.
Yeah.
Knowing that you write a song and a guy like Larnell or someone like Rodney or Aldean or For Him or whoever, they think enough of that song.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to pick 10. They want that to be one of them. And then they want to go and stand in front of the thousands of people that I'll never see or know or have that opportunity, and share that song with their fans, with their audience.
Yeah.
It's very humbling, because you realize what you created in a small little room in Nashville is being sung. So tonight, I'm going, okay, well, Aldean's in an arena somewhere in, Alabama, and here's Rodney's somewhere else down in Georgia, and then here's Danny Goki, and he's over here in Arizona, and they're taking pieces of me And they're standing on a platform and they're saying, here. And I'm going, wow, I never in a million years would have dreamt that that little piece of me would go to a place where I'll never go and be in front of people that I'll never meet. But the message was strong enough that those artists felt like, I've got to say this. I want to say this. And you're right, whether it's a celebratory song or just I wrote a song, there's a group called the Martins. And I wrote a song called The Promise. And that song probably is one that that was a heart song there as well. And I don't want to think I wrote the big funeral song, but I get more people who write me and say, we had this sung at my dad's funeral, and when my dad passed, it'd be 2 years ago, I went home and I told Mom, I can't sing. Don't ask me to sing. And she goes, oh, you have to sing The Promise. And I remember getting up there thinking, I don't think I can do this.
Yeah.
And my wife and I cried my way through it. But I realized even then, the healing that comes through music and the words and how God poured hope and peace into my heart that moment. And so those things, it's indescribable. I mean, accolades and awards and stuff, that's cool. But it's knowing that you've touched a heart and maybe helped somebody through a tough time or whatever it may be. I can't even I don't know how to describe that. It's mind blowing that your little creation that you, like I said, you made here in a little room would go across the globe somewhere and impact somebody that you've never met. And I think every
questions.
day that I get,
go ahead. I'm sorry.
Excuse me. I think every day that I get in the room, that's what I think. Who needs to hear this? And God, take this where it needs to go. Because right here in Nashville, it needs to go beyond these three people that are sitting in this room writing it. So you take it and use it wherever. And that's kind of the way I approach my writing. It's just, I drop it in God's hands and say, whatever becomes of it, it's all you, Lord. And you will get the glory and you will get the praise because I'm just trying to be faithful in what I do. So
I have a feeling we could do so many episodes because I have so many questions and I don't want to take a ton of your time. You've been so gracious already. So I actually have two questions. My daughter and I watched a Louis Capaldi documentary on Netflix, which had a lot of F-bombs. Yeah. And it was hard to get through, but it was incredibly powerful. And, for him, there was something I had never heard of before called the imposter syndrome. Have you ever heard of that?
Yeah. I mean, no, go ahead and describe it.
So, that's what he's dealt with. And obviously if somebody gets a chance, first of all, understand there's going to be a lot of F-bombs if you watch it, but it's worth watching because it's heartbreaking what this artist is going through. Yeah. And the bottom line was, he had incredible success with songs he had written.
Right.
And then he felt the imposter syndrome being, he felt the weight and the pressure of continuously doing it over and over and over again. Have you ever felt like that as a songwriter?
Yeah. You know what? Well, it's a business.
Yeah.
It's the music business, whether it's Christian music or country or pop or whatever, there's still a business side of it that has to monetarily make sense. You sign a publishing deal, that's somebody saying, hey, I'm going to pay you to, write songs. And that way, you have a bank account that you're trying to replenish, so to speak. Trying to get. And so when you have a big hit, they look at you and go, so you're like, well, what else you got?
Exactly.
And so you're sitting there going, well, gosh, that was pretty good, wasn't it? So it's, well, you're only as good as what you do next, so to speak. So there is a little bit of that, but I try not to live under that. It's kind of like Michael Jackson when he did Thriller. He wouldn't release a record for the longest time because he just well, it's not as good as Thriller. Well, I don't know if you'll ever get as good as Thriller. You know,
exactly.
So for me,
right.
I know that there are songs that I'll never outright.
Right.
If I'm not trying to write the next Everything You Are. That was what it was. Now, but there's something differently that I might say, and it might have a similar theme. But on a daily basis, I'm just trying to write honest and trying to write music that, like, you know, touches people and moves people. And if I don't have a year where I have some number ones or whatever, I don't decide, oh, I'm done. You know, I'll never do it again. You know, I equate it a lot of times with my baseball career. You know, what do they say in baseball? If you bat 300, you're a success. And that's by going. So if you look at that and anything else in life, go, wow, if I'm successful 3 out of 10 times, I'm a star. Really? You know?
Right.
And so I look at that and go, in the music business, that percentage is way, way. I mean, I've written hundreds and hundreds of songs. Been fortunate to have a lot of cuts, but when it comes down to the percentages, if I sat down, I've never really done this, but you know, I don't know I'm batting 300. You know, in the music business, you know, but it's something, you know, you hope that everything you write finds a home. And there's songs on my laptop that will never see the light of day that are still some of my favorite songs. Yeah. And it's just, you know, and maybe it was just written for me at that point in my career or my life that I needed to hear that myself. I don't know. It is a little bit of pressure when you have the business side kind of looking at you with a contract, and this is how many songs you need to turn in, and this is how much we're willing to pay you for a year of your services, and and you're going to make this back, basically. And I've been fortunate to what they call recoup, you know, and keep a job. This is all I've done for 37 years. I've fooled them all to believe I can, you know. So for 37 years, I've been writing songs and singing, and you know, I go back to some of my high school buddies, even some of my college buddies, and they'll go, "So what is it you do?" And I say, "Well, I'm a songwriter." Yeah, but what's your job? And I go,
"How do you get paid?" Right?
That's my job, man. And they're like, "What?" You know? Every day I get up and get to grab my guitar and be creative, and I love that. And,
I love that answer. And again, you've been very gracious with your time. And I have so many more questions. So you're going to have to come back for another round.
I'm here. I took the day and kind of said, you know what? I'm actually not writing today. I'm playing for a benefit tonight.
I love it.
We do some benefits here in town for childhood cancer. And so they bring some writers in, and you ever been to the Bluebird, or do you know what the Bluebird is?
I've been to Nashville. Okay. Actually, tell Kurt Harding that our table's almost ready at Mellow Mushroom in Franklin.
I will.
Look at that.
The Bluebird is a songwriter venue where people come and they want to hear the stories behind the songs, much like what I'm telling you.
Yeah.
And we sit on stools with our guitars and we tell the story, then we sing the song. So they bring a bunch of us together like that, and we play, and the money that's raised benefits childhood cancer research. So that's all. And that's not when I say that's all I have. That's what I have for today, and that's later on. But I block as much time as you need me here. And, so I'm yours, brother.
Well, that's a perfect segue to my next question was going to be this. So when the first time I met Kurt Harding, or one of the first 2 times I met Kurt Harding, it actually became an annual event, and they made me run the god-awful Nashville half marathon.
Oh, yeah, I did that.
It's the worst ever. It's seriously, I never wanted to kill somebody more than when I had to run that, not once but twice. And we did it every year so we could get together with Kurt and a guy named Dave Schrader and some other the Maines family. We all went out together, and it was amazing, and it became this annual event for us. But one night we went to Puckett's, and I think it was the very first time we did it. And my good friend Dave Schrader said, "Hey, we're going to go to Puckett's. It's songwriter night." I'm like, how dumb does that sound? Like, I live in Columbus. I don't know anything about this stuff. Now I actually absolutely would love to hear, like we're talking about today. But at the time, I'm like, man, that sounds dumb. Like, we're going to Nashville. Like, there should be some fun. Let's do something. Anyway, we went, and we were standing outside Puckett's because we had to wait to get in. And this guy walks by with one of the most amazing mullets ever. It knocks my mullet and yours out of the ballpark. Like,
Yeah.
it was amazing. And it was this guy walks by. I'm like, check out that dude's mullet. It's amazing. And this is just a few years ago. And then anyway, so we go into Puckett's, and it was 3 people. To your point, it was 3 people, and they sat on the stage and they talked about the songs they wrote, and then they sang them. And one of the guys, the guy with the amazing mullet, was Tim Rushlow,
Yeah.
who wrote a song called Amy's Back in Austin. And
Yep.
my son is named Austin because of the song Amy's Back in Austin. I heard the song, and my wife was pregnant, and I said, if we have a girl, it's going to be Amy Austin. And if we have a boy, it's going to be Austin. I just like the song. And so here I am. Wow. I'm sitting there. So Nashville's amazing. It's incredible. That was completely off track. That was not what I was going to ask you, but I did have to share the story. So yeah, Nashville's this amazing place that I wish someday we could live, and because I would be in all my glory down there for things like that.
It's a continual. I know Tim; he's a good brother, and I just his years with Little Texas and all that.
Love Little Texas,
but that's the energy of this town. I was a youth pastor when I moved here, and I left the church I was in at Oskaloosa, Iowa, the Nazarene Church, and moved to Nashville to take a position at Grace Nazarene, and I'll never forget my pastor in Iowa said, Brian, if you move to Nashville, you'll never leave. He goes, it's what you do.
Yeah.
And it is. It's a town full of creative people, and I love the energy, and I love that aspect of it. So
I love that I got to walk up to Tim Rushlow and his amazing mullet. I don't know if he still got it, but at the time it was amazing. It was permed. It was amazing.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, I got to walk up to him and say, hey, thanks for writing that song, because I named my son Austin, who pitched at Mount Vernon Nazarene University, by the way. He just graduated. He's got his degree and has a good job. But I named my son because of Amy's Back in Austin. So very small world.
That's crazy. I love that story. That's cool.
It's very cool. All right. So that's my last question for you regarding that was going to be, has there ever been a moment where, so when Watching You goes number 1, and you said you had a band, you sang, you did that life. Has there ever been a point where it's like, that could have been me? That could have been me singing my song. Or, and I have a feeling I already know this about you in the short time we've spent together, is because of your faith and because of who you are, I have a feeling you're totally okay with someone else getting the glory.
Mm.
But has it ever been hard when somebody else gets the glory and I wrote that song? They didn't.
I for 15 years as Brian White and Justice, I stood on that stage. And I was, the crazy thing was I was writing at that time. We were a rock band. We were kind of like Bon Jovi for Jesus. Okay. It was just that whole thing. And I remember coming back to the campus and I had a healthy mullet and a tattoo and earrings and I'm going, they're going to walk me out there to sing. And the professors, the music professors, were probably like, oh my gosh, it was great. Because I traveled in the PR group at the college, and we were nothing like the PR, the music majors. We were not prim and proper. We were like, come on, it was that kind of thing. And so I did that for 15 years, and I did 5 records and saw the world from a bus and an airplane window. And there came a point where I was like, you know what? I'll tell you when the point came. I was playing a show, and they said, hey, we got this band going to open for you. We were playing in Columbus. I want to say Reynoldsburg, maybe. I don't know. But they said, it's a new band, and they're hot, and everybody, so they're going to open for you. We're like, okay. So we get there, and there's all these kids, because we had a pretty good draw in the especially in the Columbus area because of Mount Vernon stuff. Big crowd. And this band goes out there, and they are just ripping it apart on stage, just killing it. And they were this little band called Reliant K. Well, and they were just kind of on the verge of signing with Goatee and all that, and they're moshing, and people are going crazy, wow, and then they go, and then we go out there, And I felt like the old guy walking out there,
Yeah.
and we're doing this kind of arena rock thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember I decided, okay, I'm going to do a little stage dive, because that was at the end of a song, and my drummer's doing this big trash can ending, and I'm like pointing at the crowd, and they're pointing back at me, and I'm pointing at the crowd like, I'm coming for you, man. And I go running out of the stage, and I dive, and I turn, and it was like the parting of the Red Sea, man. I just, and I hit the ground, and I knocked the wind out of me, and my guitar player's still doing the big strum, getting like, are we going to ever end this song? Are you ever going to get back on the stage? And I'm thinking to myself, it's been fun, but I can't, nah. And that was kind of the start for me going,
that was the moment, huh?
Yeah, I'm like, I don't want to jump off the stage no more, and I'm not going to do this. And but it was just, it was like a passing of the baton, whatever you want to call it. I realized, I ran a really good race, and I enjoyed it. And there was something very, very satisfying with standing on the stage and singing my songs and watching the people respond. But at the same time, I'm out here doing the rock thing, and my publishing company is going, hey, we're looking for songs for Larnell. Can you send us something? Or we need some Michael English, or and I'm writing something completely different than what I do. And I loved that. It was like, okay, I'm not just this. I'm like, okay, maybe. And at that point, the songwriting really, really became more of a focus, writing for other artists. And so it was easy for me to step back and go, I've had my day at the level that the Lord wanted to take it to. And I loved it. We played General Assembly, and we played every VIP day thing. And we did all that. And it was fun. I loved it. I don't regret 1 minute of it. But it was time for me to step back and go, now I stay home. Do I miss a bus? No. Do I, do I miss setting up and tearing down every night? No. I mean, my buddies still do that. I mean, we came in the same time as Third Day. Audio Adrenaline. We toured with Audio Adrenaline. Mylan, who just passed away. I did shows with Mylan. Those were great memories. But I love that I just sit on a stool. Tonight, I'm going to take my guitar, sit on a stool, plug it in, tell a couple stories, play my songs, unplug it, come home, sleep in my bed. I love it. So I don't really, it's not like, hey, man, that could have been me. It was me for an extent, but I think more importantly to me is like, when Michael English cut some of my stuff, I was like, okay, that's a voice for the ages.
Right.
And
right.
So who am I not to be happy about my little song and let him sing it? They don't want to see Brian White singing that song. Let him sing it. So it wasn't hard.
Well, by the time this posts, your night at Bluebird, is that what you called it?
Well, tonight we're playing. It's kind of a Bluebird setup. It's called the Local, which is a club here in town that they do. The guy there that owns the Local is very much involved in childhood cancer sponsorships, and so
love that.
They had called and said, "Hey, would you come and play?" So I'm going to be there.
By the time this episode airs, it'll be after your event tonight. So what songs are you going to do tonight?
I will do Watching You. And see, it'll be, there's 3 of us on the round. And so we'll each do 3 and then they bring 3. So I'll do Watching You. I'll probably do The Promise because of the nature of this. And then I'll probably do one of my Aldine songs. I don't know that because the guy there, he's like, hey, you're going to do an Aldine song, aren't you? So you kind of try to kind of fit into what they want you to do. But,
well, you brought up Aldine. So did you write the Small Town song?
I wished I did.
you I hope people can. I'm on audio, so people won't see my face. You wish you did, really?
Yeah. You know what? I know those guys, and there's not a racist thing about any part of that song.
Not one.
Just you know what? We take care of our people. We back each other. The amazing thing is when people were going, well, that's a racist song. I've been told in this climate of our country. I had a guy look at me and go, are you racist? And I said, no. He goes, well, then you are, because you don't think you are, you are. And I'm like going, so then either way, I lose. Right. I said, let me, and I said, you don't know me. I said, let me tell you a little bit about me. Okay. My wife, and that would be a podcast she should do. My wife's amazing. She's one of 19 in her family.
Okay.
She has,
schedule it. Let's do it.
She has 14 adopted brothers and sisters from all over the world.
Wow.
You follow basketball and all pro basketball. Her dad was the general manager of the Philadelphia 76ers when they won the world championship. So that was with Dr. J.
Dr. J.
So when they won the world championship, he went to Orlando and he started the Orlando Magic.
Is it Pat Williams?
Yeah, that's my father-in-law. It's Pat Williams. And,
Come on. Are you serious?
Yeah.
How is his health? So, I'm not sorry. How is his health?
Good. He's good. You know what? He went through a cancer thing about 7 years ago, and he's in remission, and he's good. And one of the most unbelievable individuals you'll ever meet. Just unbelievable.
Love him. Love him. Never met him, but love him.
But I'm like, I told this person, you don't know me. I got brother-in-laws and sister-in-laws who are Hispanic, who are Filipino, Brazilian, African-American, Jamaican. I said, so don't tell me what you don't know about me.
Yeah.
And so that song, Try That in a Small Town, I just, well, one, it blew up. And it's, if you looked at it from a monetary standpoint, my buddies are doing very, very well because the song is sold very, very well.
Right.
But anyway, now I wrote a song. I've been on the last 4 Aldine records. In case you don't remember, Like You Were Still Mine, Blame It on You, which was the #1 for it.
Great song.
You know what? Those are just Jason is who Jason is.
Love it.
And you know, he's a patriot, you know, and he's going to stand up and wave the flag and it's, again, those are those moments where God puts you in a place you go, okay, do I endorse a lifestyle all the time? No, but I can write a song and that guy stands on the stage and sings it. And I think that's where the Lord puts you in places in the world where you have a chance to influence and speak truth and hope and peace. And that's how I kind of look at those things. So,
well, man, I love you. I really do. We've just met here today. I just genuinely mean that. That's just for many reasons we've talked about. I could talk to you all day, but I know people listen on a treadmill or in their car. Yeah. And so, you know, unless we do like 5 episodes, which you got to come back. And I honestly want to interview your wife too. Would love to have her on.
She's a lot cuter than me.
Same. I outkicked that coverage a long time ago, brother.
Yeah, I'm out of my league. But you know what? Let me just say this. I want to just say thank you for pursuing this podcast interview, and the fact that we both have the roots to Mount Vernon. I love my university. That's right. And I always said, I think as someone said it there, we're not just trying to teach you how to make a living. We're trying to teach you how to live, you know, just like that's what college was for me. Yeah. I went there to play baseball, and, you know, it was like an overglorified youth camp, you know, it was like, woohoo, you know,
it really was,
you know, and at your freshman year, you're just like, oh, this is unbelievable. And then you're flunking a class and you're going, yeah, this is unbelievable. And I'm paying for this. Actually, your parents are going, we're paying for this. Right. But I look back on those days and with the fondest of memories, and it shaped me and my faith, and it gave me a place to anchor when I went with some rough waters, and God has been faithful, man. I am so of all the things, I'm just a guy trying to be faithful to what God has called me to do, and I really believe that songwriting is a calling for me. I believe that. There's a lot of other things I probably thought I would be doing. Yeah. I got a radio and TV degree. I was a youth. My wife jokes and says, "You've lived 3 lifetimes." You know, I was a youth pastor for 10 years. I toured as an artist for 15 years. Now I've been a songwriter all those years, but now that's just what I really do is just write songs, and have done that for the last 15, I guess, or 20. And I look at that and I go, but everything I was doing at Mount Vernon was kind of shaping me and getting me kind of that way. I'm thankful for the professors that put up with me. And,
That's right.
And
The
then,
grace.
and then
right?
but the brotherhood of people, believers across the globe, really, that, I get to rub shoulders again with and come in contact with. So this podcast, man, I'm excited because maybe there'll be some people that I haven't talked to in forever that hear this and go, "Oh man, Brian White! I always wondered if that guy if he just fell off the face of the earth, or if anything ever good came out of him." So, and and I have a website, brianwhitesongwriter.com,
Right.
and people can check that out. But I hope that the songs, when they look down in the credits, and if it's a song that moves them and they see my name, they know that it came from a real place. And your stories today about Extra Mile and everything you are, those will be ones, Aaron, that I'll cherish, man. Those mean the world to me to hear from you. So thank you.
This has meant the world to me. It really has. So I have two questions, and then I want to leave you with something. So number one, let's say that one more time, because it's the least I can do, is the website and how can people contact you? So that's my first question.
Okay, brianwhitesongwriter.com. And there's a place there that you can email. And I try to keep it updated the best I can. And, there's pictures and music and that kind of schedule. But that's probably the easiest place to get in touch with me. Or my social medias are easy. I mean, Instagram is BW Tunes, TUNES. And then, Facebook is just look for the guy that looks goofy, Brian White. There's, it's kind of, I guess I'm supposed to be flattered by this, but there's been some people who kind of put up fake pages or whatever. And I'm like, who wants to be me? What is that?
I love that. Yeah. I love it. All right. My last question for you, and then I do want to leave you with something. My last question for you, was there ever a lyric? Your catalog is huge, man. And again, you've written so many songs. We haven't even had the chance to scratch the surface. So I do, please, everyone go to your website and just scroll through that catalog. It's amazing. Was there ever a moment where you wrote a lyric? I'll give you one. Those miles create a distance that keeps us worlds apart. There's a road you walk each day that travels through my heart. That's one. Was there ever a moment? Was there ever a lyric? Is there ever a moment where you're like, wow, that wasn't me. That was the hand of God giving me this one lyric? And I know that's a really hard question because you have tons.
I think probably in the song "The Promise." The very first time I ever wrote with my buddy Don Portress, we were both at the same company, and we were talking about we were both believers in a country publishing situation, and we started talking about just God. And I said, "Man, I love the promises of the Lord. I'll never leave you nor forsake you." And he said, "Yeah, lo, I'm with you always, even into the end of the age." I said, "Yeah." I said, "Here's one I don't like." And he looked at me kind of, and I said, "The world hated me; they'll hate you too."
Wow.
And I went, I said, the world's never going to, and that was the time I think where Jars of Clay had out Flood. And I thought the world embraced that for a moment, but they're not going to embrace darkness and light clash. And I said, so if we're truly living our lives in a way that they're never just going to go, oh, all you Christian people with all this, come to me. They're going to go, mm. And I said, I don't think the world's ever going to be ready to embrace our faith wholeheartedly. They might put up with us a little bit. I said, until they come to know Christ, we are the opposition, so to speak. And that song, "The Promise," I never said that I would give you silver or gold. You wouldn't face the fire or shiver in the cold. But I did say you'd never walk through this world alone. And I did say, don't make this world your home. And so we just started digging in all the things that God did say. He didn't say that we would never have friends turn their back on us. But he did say, I'll be there right by your side. So it was all those things. And at the end, I never said you wouldn't taste the bitter kiss of death or have to cross through chilly Jordan just to enter into rest. But I did say I'd be waiting right on the other side. And I did say, I'll dry every tear you've cried. He went to prepare a place. And so that song, when I sang that at my dad's funeral, I realized, God, you never promised us we'd live forever, but you did in another place. You said you'd be waiting for us when we crossed through that. And I think that those lyrics in that song, that's my mom's favorite song, you know, and it has been, as I've had to, my co-writer, his father passed, and sang it at his funeral. And as I've seen that, the words of that comfort and bring healing, I think it's that lyric that I go, God, I don't know where those words came from that day. But I do. It came from your word, because your promises are true.
Yeah.
And man, I lean on that heavy. I know there's nothing that this flesh and bone here. There's probably people that would like to tell you other sides of my life, you know, and you know what? I'm an open book. Divorce was hard, you know, and I acknowledge my failures there. But I am so thankful I have a God who forgives and is merciful, and his grace is sufficient. And I've leaned on those things, man. And so in my songwriting, I think I can't help but just say, I want the world to know this great God, this great comfort, this great peace that you can have in a relationship with Jesus. And that all goes back to where my roots were planted in a little Nazarene church in Pisgah, Ohio, that took me to a little Nazarene college in Mount Vernon, Ohio.
That's right.
And you know, all those things come back to me. So today has been a little bit of a journey through my past, and I appreciate it, man. So pray that this ministers to some people as they listen today.
Well, I know one guy did too. It ministered to, and that's the guy with a 13 on his ACT that somehow Mount Vernon accepted because his sister went there, and that's me. So back to your point earlier, I don't know how I ended up there. My sister went there, but I'm thankful for my Mount Vernon roots, even though I wanted to leave many times, and even though my heart was broken there through relationships and through the losing of two friends. And that's what I wanted to leave you with, man. I said it at the beginning. I'll say it again now. It's funny. And this is going to maybe be a really bad analogy, and a lot of people might click off, but you know, God left us scriptures. But I believe music is something that, and you said right or left in that hallway, right? I think country music, rock music, it's art. Yep. And I do still believe that God speaks through art. And that's a very wide encompassing thing, whether it's a movie, a lyric, quote from a movie, video. Now we have social media. There's so many content places that I believe that God still speaks. And I'm telling you, as a guy who believes that Just the Way You Are by Billy Joel is one of the greatest worship songs. It's not a worship song ever. Yeah. And I literally believe that the song Just the Way You Are is a letter. If God could write us a letter, that would be it. So that's just me, you know, and maybe that's just how I see the world. But I want you to know that, like, your ministry, maybe you're not stage diving anymore, but man, what the songs you write, whether it's Aldine, For Him, Cutlass, gosh, I could go down this list, or Larnell Harris, for a kid in 1991 sitting in his Monte Carlo in a parking lot at Mount Vernon High School, crying his eyes out and just crying out to God, man, it matters. And for me to spend a few minutes at your feet today and just listen to your stories, I am so honored, and I'm so thankful that you followed the God's calling on your life, and that you're friends with my guy, Kurt Harding. Because I don't know how how else we would connect, but man, like I said earlier, I love you. I'm so honored and proud to know that you went to my university. You know, I mean, right? You know, they watch a football game and they say the Ohio State University or whatever, and people are like, yeah, that's my guy, right? Man, Mount Vernon's got some stars. They've produced some stars, and you're one of them, my friend. Thank you so much. And thank you for showing up on graduation day and healing an entire class that lost two of their brothers.
I'm blessed to have been a part of today, and that I will carry that that'll walk through my heart.
Good.
It will walk
Every
through
day,
my
right?
heart every
That's
day.
right.
That moment that I wasn't sure is making a difference made a difference.
Sure as heck did.
That's just God doing what God does.
Yeah.
And I'm so thankful that I was a part of that. So,
well, I can't wait to have you on again.
Hey,
and
come to Nashville. Let's go sit and listen to some guys with mullets sing songs and rename your kids.
Just don't make me run the marathon, man. That's all I'm asking. Don't make me run.
Oh, man. You know what? If I get up that way, I would love to. We'll grab lunch or something. If you come through Nashville, please, you've got my numbers, and
right.
let's hook up. Okay?
Absolutely. We'll watch my Guards and your Reds play.
Hey, I love your Indians.
We're not allowed to say that anymore, but it's fine. It's all good.
But who am I? So,
that's right. That's right.
I'm just going to get a hold of me. So
I love it. I love it, man. Have a wonderful day. Thank you so much, Brian. I can't wait to have you on again. I promise you. We'll do it again.
God bless you, man. Have a great day. And hey, tell those families and the children that you are working with, and you know with Watching You, love them and praying. Okay, that they continue to grow in the Lord. Okay.
I will absolutely share that.
All right.
Thank you,
All right, brother.
Talk soon.
Hi.